Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another exciting episode of On the Throttle with Jacqui Van Ham and my buddy Josh over here talking about all the new news going on in motorcycling and power sports. Thanks for tuning back in, everybody. As always, you can go ahead, watch all of our previous programs on Facebook and on YouTube. Thanks for clicking, liking, sharing, subscribing, touching all of the buttons, doing all of the things, all of the stuff, and supporting our program. Josh, what's going on in your neck of the woods for today's show?
So I got three quick things. The Iceman cometh. We're going to have a short update on an article that we covered a little while back, and you're going to be tired of more of my bad jokes.
I'm
How about
sensing
for you?
another dad. I'm sensing a dad joke in here,
Oh
Josh. I'm
yeah.
sensing
Oh yeah.
peak dad joke happening here shortly. Well, for today I've got a couple of stories coming your way, talking about an awesome off-road event that's going on out in California. I totally flaked this year, or I honestly would have booked a ticket and gone out just to spectate this awesome event, as well
Oh,
as
for sure.
some news because it's already go time for the folks over at MotoGP, Josh. So that's what I'm talking about today. First things first, let's go ahead and jump right on in here. The event that I was talking about, the off road event going on in Southern California, this excellent event called King of the Hammers is happening right now. It's happening this entire week. This opening shot I lifted from their social over on Instagram, just so you can get a taste of this massive crowd that this event draws. Look at all of those trucks and rigs and setup and people. If you are not familiar with King of the Hammers, King of the Hammers started as a beer bet amongst a dozen friends back in 2007. It is now currently one of the biggest off road events on the planet and one of the largest events held on public lands in the United States. Tens of thousands of fans, more than 500 teams gather in Southern California each year for 8 days of intense racing and festivities on and around the punishing rock trails known as the Hammers. Again, this takes place down in Johnson Valley Off-Road Park down by Joshua Tree. This event is a little bit of everything. It is going to be to some different ATV, some different UTV. There's just tons of awesome racing going on. There's tons of challenges at nights. There's these epic, huge parties going on. The coverage of this is always really intense. You can click over to their social and follow along, or they even have like it's a pay-as-you-go kind of streaming service that they're doing that shows all of the coverage and behind the scenes and some of the shots from the parties and things and stuff going on. If you want to go ahead and throw that second slide up, I just wanted to go ahead and show you also this rad event. One of their kickoff events happens Saturday night. One of the classes that they run is vintage VW Baja class. This is their buggy class. I am such a sucker for this kind of racing. My arm hair is fully standing up. I love that it's these like 1970s VW Bajas out here running and rock climbing and racing. I always love to watch classic cars, particularly the VWs, participate in this type of desert racing. I think this is such an incredible event. Josh, are you familiar with King of the Hammers? Do you follow King of the Hammers?
Um, Maybe. So I mean, it's funny. I've always loved that style of off-road racing. And it's funny that you mentioned the VW stuff, because everyone thinks trophy trucks are the baddest thing out there. The trophy truck guys look up to the VW guys. There's a movie that came out years ago called Dust to Glory, where the trophy truck guys are like, I don't know how these Volkswagen guys do this.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is
It's
its own super particular breed of mental, and you're totally right. By the way,
yes.
Dust to Glory is one of my favorite wintertime movies. It is like super inspiring. I love to watch
Yeah.
it. Um, so go ahead and check out their social, follow along. It's great footage and super
Yes.
exciting racing. Let's go on ahead, Josh. Tell me all about your first story for today.
So what's interesting is this year I was a little bit sad. I mean, a lot of us that follow power sports or in power sports follow some of the Formula One stuff. And this year, one of my favorite guys retired, but he's not gone. The Iceman has cometh, as he is now full on as the MXGP. He is now the team principal for his team. So any of you that know Kimi Räikkönen know that he is all about just what needs to be said and absolutely nothing more. I still remember watching him in Monaco. His engine blew up, and rather than walking back to the pits, he walked straight onto his yacht. He's like, the car's dead. Why do I need to go to the pits? I'm going to go sit with my friends and have a drink and watch the rest of the race. So to have someone that's got this type of mindset, I think is awesome. It's MXGP, which primarily right now is European focused for the motocross stuff there. Previously, it was known as Ice One Racing Team, and they were a privateer effort. Now they are fully factory backed by Kawasaki. He will be running the team alongside longtime partner in this in I'm always going to get this wrong. Antti Perhonen is the name. All these Finnish people, I'm going to have a tough time with these names. You know this, Jacqui, is these Nordic people. For 2022, the riders are Ben Watson and Roman Febre. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this team comes along. Kimi's been in this for a number of years. Those of you that follow the MXGP stuff, he loves the motocross stuff. He's always been a fan of it. For him to take on this team and now to have the factory backing of Kawasaki, I think is awesome. It brings not only a little bit more star power, but he obviously knows how to create a winning team and a winning environment at the highest levels of motorsport. So for him to bring this to these guys, I am super excited about this. So, I mean, are you an Iceman fan, Jacqui?
I absolutely am a Kimi fan. I am totally team Kimi. I do enjoy Formula One as well. And you're right, it brings this huge, huge bump of star power to MXGP, which with the Americans, which particularly on this side of the pond, MXGP is basically like the equivalent of their kind of supercross as far as star level and
Yes.
interest level. It brings hundreds of thousands of fans. It is absolutely massive over there. Unfortunately, they do not or have not had many dates in this neck of the woods. I believe if I remember correctly, I think they're running at Redbud again this next coming season. I could be totally wrong. Go ahead and throw it in the comments. Go get on the Google box and tell me. But I think I remembered hearing that they are coming back to the United States, which is excellent. So I think that Kimi is going to bring a whole different level of interest for people. And you're right. He definitely has that zero F's given, never say die type mentality, and I am here for it. I love it. I can't wait to see what happens. And I'm also aware that he is a motorcycling fan, not just a four-wheel fan as well. So I'm really excited to see this
Yeah.
partnership. This just peaked up on the news in the past handful of days. So good eye on you, Josh, for bringing that to the attention for today's show. Good call. And factory backing from Kawasaki
For
couldn't be
sure.
any more better. And while we are talking about factory backing and big things going on in the world of racing, it's that time of year already. It seems like just yesterday MotoGP wrapped up. They are already starting to head back into their testing schedule. They're going to be heading to Malaysia this weekend for their testing that's going to be going on over the entire course of the weekend. And in your MotoGP new news roundup, this is what it is going to look like. So already you can see a shot on your screen right now. This is going to be from Malaysia, where they are going to be doing testing. A whole bunch of teams are going to be there, of course. Obviously, unfortunately, one of the racers who, not unfortunately, because he actually is going to show up, but this was also in the news, is the fact that Jack Miller announced that he tested positive for coronavirus. But this was announced like a week or so ago, so he should be good to go by now. Still, his details are not confirmed whether he is going to be showing up in Malaysia or not for testing with Ducati. Ducati, however, was also going to be launching their bikes, because not only is it testing time, it is launch season when they start showing off the new colors, the new livery, the bikes, the gear, all the stuff. It's around this time of year as well. Everybody's going to be doing it pretty much digitally, again, because of COVID. So there's going to be a bunch of this type of news heading your way in the next 7 days. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled. If you are a MotoGP fan, you are probably not going to be able to miss it, because it's going to be everywhere. They're going to be showing off the new bikes, the teams, the leathers, the livery, the gear. All the stuff is going to be happening digitally in the next 7 days, as well as news from testing. Marc Marquez will be participating in testing. He has recovered already from his bout of double vision that he was going through in the last month or so. He has been cleared. He will be participating in the testing. If you want to go ahead, throw that next slide up. The next slide on your screen should be a shot coming from a little bit more MotoGP news. So that's Jack Miller. He did test positive, but have no fear. I believe he probably is going to be cleared and is going to be heading over for testing. He's totally fine. He's reporting 0 symptoms. Next slide on your screen is going to be a shot from the American side. This neck of the woods should be able to recognize that, because that is Circuit of the Americas with the iconic tower in Austin, Texas. Now, this past year, they did race for 2021 at COTA, Circuit of the Americas, COTA, and the racers all got together afterwards and said that the track is in such terrible, terrible condition that they absolutely refuse to go back and race there again going forward unless some major changes were underway. COTA has announced that they are not only trying to smooth out some of these more dangerous corners, they're putting in extra work, and they're smoothing down like a whole backside of the track, and they're going to be redoing the under pavement as well. The reason why all these ripples were happening on the track and making the surface very rough is because of the Texas clay and the Texas soils absorb a lot of that rain that they get, and then it starts breaking down underneath, and then it causes ripples and waves on the surface. Incredibly, incredibly dangerous to race on. So COTA is going to be completely redoing a huge chunk of their track for 2022, so that way they can be back on the schedule. Another interesting bit of news, speaking of track maintenance and redoing some tracks, over in Belgium, the iconic, the historic Formula One track. That's right, Josh, I brought it back to Formula One. Spa-Francorchamps is also going to be redoing some of their track and adding to some of the amenities there, because they also are trying to court and get MotoGP to come back. MotoGP has not raced at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium since 1990. So this would definitely be a feather in their cap. Cars are more forgiving than motorcycles are on that kind of rough pavement. So they've been racing Formula One there for years and years, but it would be really cool to have MotoGP be able to go back to that track as well. That is your beginning news for the beginning of the MotoGP season. Josh, are you already paying attention to MotoGP?
Just to give you a hint about it, yes, because I was actually watching a video the other day, I believe it was on Instagram, from COTA of them repaving it. Not that I'm excited about that or anything. If you're watching them repave a track because you're excited enough that they're doing it, that may show you something.
I feel like there's a joke in here about watching paint dry, about watching concrete
correct.
set. I feel like there's a joke in here somewhere.
Correct. And I was trying to bet on which dump truck was going to get ahead of the other, but yeah, so no, that is a great thing. The Ducati stuff coming out is obviously Ducati is going to, I mean, it's going to be almost a half Ducati field next year. So seeing what they're going to have for liveries and everything like that, I mean, they are the artistes of the bunch, obviously. So to see what they've got coming out from that aspect too, once again, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be one of those things when you get to see those liveries up close, you're like, oh yeah, that looks good. So yeah, well, I'm excited for that.
Ducati in particular, but everybody else really too, is going to be doing and hosting digital launches all swirling around this exact same weekend, because, I mean, we're going to see them regardless. So they have to do like an actual corporate launch and explain the bikes and explain the thinking process, because everyone's going to see pictures of the bikes on the track anyway. So it's all going to be happening in the next 7 days. All of that stuff will be firming up, and it's going to be out there on the internet. So make sure you go ahead and go check it out. We will, of course, be bringing you all the exciting MotoGP news here on the Throttle program as well. And what do you have next going on in your neck of the woods, Josh?
So a quick update, because we both like all the e-bike stuff. So a quick update. We talked a couple of weeks ago about the Stark VARG. This was this dirt bike that basically had, 80 horsepower, if I remember correctly. They are not going to be making bikes for about a year. It's an 80 horsepower, $10,000 dirt bike that they sold 1,000 units for. They took deposits, and I think it's a large deposit. It's not like give us $10 for your deposit. 1,000 units in less than 24 hours. To me, that bodes so well for this industry and for these types of vehicles going forward. I'm really excited about this one. I'm excited about a lot of them, and I know you are too, Jacqui, but this I'm pumped about. So to see that, it's showing that people are willing to put their wallets down for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, especially 2021. I just glancing through the news this past week. This story doesn't shock me, but I'm really, really happy for it because you're right. This proves to manufacturers that there is a market for this
Yep.
type of vehicle, even though everybody was saying that there is not. Because 2021 is the year that everybody broke records. Ducati just announced this week they had their biggest sales ever in the history of their brand.
Yep.
BMW is in the same boat. KTM had a very, very similar
Yep.
high year in 2021. So everybody is out here snapping up all of the power sports, all of the motorcycles. And I love that this is showing that there's a market for this as well.
Totally agree. So I also mentioned that you may be tired of some of my terrible jokes. So
Never, never, Josh,
no,
never.
no, no. I can tell. I can tell. That's thank you for the pity laugh there. Nonetheless, Heidenau just released a K60 Ranger tire. This is a 70/30 off/on-road tire that you can see here. So Heidenau is known for having tread and tread compounds that are just going to last forever and be these great tires that you can take, just put them on the bike and not worry about them for 6,000 miles. So that sometimes has come at a cost of wet grip. Now, Heidenau has changed compounds, and this is supposed to keep their longevity while really increasing that wet pavement grip, because us guys that ride adventure and dirty stuff, we don't care if it's raining. We're still gonna go ride, and that's that. We're gonna throw on our rain gear and we're just out to get out of the house anyway. So that being said, having these upgraded tires in terms of still giving us that confidence in that wet situation, to me is a big step forward. And once again, they've really grown over the past number of years. And to see this and those steps forward, I think they're going to take a bigger chunk out of some of this market. I'm excited to see it. Do you have a set on anything right now, Jacqui, or no?
Actually, I don't, but it's funny that you should mention that because I did check out the Heidenau Tire booth while I was out at AIM Expo in Las Vegas. Be aware also, spoiler kind of alert-ish, we are going to be releasing some behind-the-scenes videos and interviews out here on the MPN channel here on Facebook and YouTube, so make sure you go ahead, hit the notifications on, you're not going to want to miss it. But we talked about this exact tire because I think you're right. It's super interesting to be in this space right now. You know, talk about all the time. There's so much growth in ADV. There's so much growth in dual sport, and people need the right tire to do the right job, right? Whether it's a streetable knobby or a knobby streetable, I guess you would say,
Yep.
depending on what mix you're looking for, the more options, the better. I think people are dialing in their bikes and getting them even more specific and more niche, depending on what they want to go do with these awesome new toys that everybody snapped up clearly in 2021.
You're totally right, and that's what's so interesting about it is obviously, I think we touched on it a little bit last week. As this market has grown, it has allowed manufacturers to make things that are a little bit more specialized. So that way, I mean, two bikes do not necessarily compete head to head. One's going to do one thing a little bit better, and another one's going to do something else a little bit better. There's no difference when it comes to tires. There's no difference. I mean, I'm just putting new tires on my bike, and I spent hours going, oh, that one looks amazing, but it's exactly the type of riding I don't do.
Yeah.
So it's finding the right mix and figuring out what's going to be the best for your application, what's going to work the best. And this is one that I think a lot of people are going to be snapping up.
Yeah, they were really, really stoked to show this off, and I completely understand why. It's a great looking
Yeah.
tire. It's got a ton of like very aggressive vibe to it. And just seeing this in person, you can see like the hard ridges and how beefy this tire is and how great it's going to
The,
do
the,
off-road.
the
Yeah, it's
claw
just got the
motion there
grip.
is
Yeah, I mean, I
amazing.
could, you know what I mean? Like it's got great grip to it. Be quiet. You be grateful I didn't throw it. You be grateful I didn't throw in a tool joke when you had that hammer out earlier because you were about ready to get it. So
Perfect. I'm good
anywho,
with it.
Josh, we covered a little bit of everything, and I love that it was full
We
circle.
did.
We started out with King of the Hammers, talking about what a tool you are, and we went right all the way to the
Correct.
perfect tire to go out there and knock down your own King of the Hammer style off-road riding. So make sure you go on
Correct.
ahead, check out all of the stuff we've been talking about today, whether it's King of the Hammers or Kimi. We bring you all the greatest news here on the program. Thank you so much for tuning in, clicking, liking, and sharing all of these videos that love hearing about all the rad stuff going on out here in motorcycling and power sports. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.